For decades, Zenith was the most trusted name in American electronics. They invented the television remote control, pioneered FM stereo broadcasting, and at their peak held more than 20% of the United States television market. Families swore by it, retailers stocked it first, and repairmen recommended it above all else. But by 1999, Zenith had filed for bankruptcy and was sold to a South Korean conglomerate for the price of its own debt. So how did America's favorite electronics brand end up worth nothing? It started in Chicago in 1918 when two young radio operators named Carl Hassel and Ralph Matthews began building radio equipment on a kitchen table inside Matthews' family home at 1316 Carmen Avenue. They had met as cadets at the Great Lakes Naval Training Station during the First World War and bonded over a shared obsession with radio technology. Their operation was called the Chicago Radio Laboratory, and their testing station was a small garage on the grounds of the Edgewater Beach Hotel. The name Zenith came from their amateur radio call sign, 9ZN, which they shortened to Zenith. In 1921, a self-made millionaire named Eugene F. McDonald Jr. walked into the picture. McDonald was a former naval intelligence officer who had already made his fortune pioneering automobile financing, and he brought what Hassel and Matthews desperately needed, which was capital, charisma, and a reckless appetite for risk. On June 30th, 1923, he formally incorporated the Zenith Radio Corporation, and for the next 37 years, he and Zenith were basically inseparable. Under McDonald's leadership, Zenith became one of the most prolific innovation engines in American consumer electronics. In 1924, they released the world's first portable radio. In 1926, they built the first mass-produced radio that ran on household AC current, which eliminated the need for bulky external batteries. In 1927, they introduced push-button radio tuning and adopted the company's slogan that would define the brand for generations. McDonald also built the Zenith name through a genuine adventure. In 1925, he personally organized and financed an Arctic expedition with explorer Donald Macmillan, equipping the entire team with Zenith shortwave transmitters and receivers aboard their vessel. The expedition proved that shortwave radio could work reliably over extreme long distances, and the press coverage that followed turned Zenith into a nationally recognized brand almost overnight. But the company's most lasting contributions to the American living room came in the decades after. In 1950, Zenith released the Lazy Bones, the world's first wired television remote control. Then in 1955, Zenith engineer Eugene Polly invented the Flashmatic, the first wireless remote, which used a beam of light aimed at photocells on the television screen. The problem was that sunlight streaming through a window could change the channels on its own. So in 1956, engineer Robert Adler solved it with the Space Command remote, which used ultrasonic tones produced by precision-cut aluminum rods struck by tiny internal hammers inside the device. Adding the Space Command system to a Zenith television set required 6 extra vacuum tubes and pushed the retail price up by roughly 30%. But customers gladly paid it. And in 1961, the FCC adopted Zenith's FM stereo radio broadcast system as the national standard for the United States, a system that is still used around the world today. By 1960, Zenith and RCA were the two largest television manufacturers in the country, each holding more than 20% of the domestic market. Around 25 other companies, including Admiral, Magnavox, Philco, and DuMont, divided the rest. By 1962, Zenith employed around 11,000 people, with at least 6,400 of them working across 7 factory plants in the Chicago metropolitan area alone. Plant number 1 at 6001 West Dickens Avenue had roughly 2,500 workers building radios, televisions, and hi-fi phonographs under a single roof. The Zenith name was synonymous with American manufacturing quality, and for millions of families across the country, buying a Zenith television for the living room meant buying the best thing money could get you. But the clock was already ticking inside the Zenith corporate offices in Chicago, and nobody in the boardroom could hear it yet. On May 15, 1958, Eugene McDonald died unexpectedly at the age of 72. Multiple industry accounts described his death as a loss that left a void of talent at the very top of the company that could not be replaced. McDonald had been the creative engine, the marketing genius, and the visionary risk-taker, all wrapped into one person for nearly 4 decades. The leadership that succeeded him was competent but cautious, and caution turned out to be exactly what Zenith could not afford for what was about to unfold. Starting in the late 1960s, Japanese electronics manufacturers, including Matsushita, Toshiba, Hitachi, Sanyo, Sharp, and Sony, began flooding the American television market, with sets priced significantly lower than anything domestic companies could match. Zenith and other American manufacturers accused the Japanese companies of dumping, which meant selling televisions in the United States at prices far below what those same companies charged consumers back in Japan. According to a 1977 Zenith report, Japanese manufacturers were selling 19-inch television sets to American retailers at prices allowing resale under $300, while the lowest-priced equivalent model sold in Japan for roughly $500. In 1971, the United States Tariff Commission ruled that the American television industry was being injured by Japanese imports sold below fair value, and fines totaling hundreds of millions of dollars were assessed against the Japanese manufacturers. But years of legal maneuvering followed, and the Japanese companies ultimately paid only nominal amounts. Zenith joined a consolidated lawsuit in 1974 alongside Sears and Motorola, seeking $900 million in damages and alleging a decades-long conspiracy to fix artificially high prices inside Japan while simultaneously undercutting American manufacturers with below-cost exports. The case consumed over a decade and cost Zenith millions of dollars in legal fees. In 1986, it reached the United States Supreme Court, which sided with the Japanese manufacturers. In April 1987, the Supreme Court refused to hear Zenith's final appeal, effectively ending a 16-year legal battle with nothing to show for it. And when Zenith attempted to sell its own television sets in Japan, the company discovered just how closed that market really was. In 1975, Japan sold 5.5 million domestically produced television sets and imported just 11,644 units from every foreign manufacturer combined. But this was not just a Zenith problem anymore, because the entire American television manufacturing industry was collapsing at the same time. Motorola sold its Quasar television division to Japan's Matsushita in 1974. Magnavox was acquired by the Dutch company Philips that same year. RCA was taken over by General Electric in 1986, and GE then sold the RCA consumer electronics brand to France's Thomson. Philco, Admiral, Dumont, Emerson, and Sylvania were all gone by the mid-1970s. In 1964, American manufacturers produced 94% of the color televisions sold in the United States. By 1975, that figure had dropped to 67%. By 1987, it had fallen to just 17%. And by the end of that year, Zenith was the last American company still manufacturing television sets on domestic soil, because every one of its competitors had either shut down or been sold to a foreign buyer. Seeing the writing on the wall, Zenith tried to diversify into computing. In 1979, the company acquired the Heath Company for $64.5 million and created Zenith Data Systems. The computer division turned into a genuine success story, winning enormous government contracts, including a $242 million deal with the United States Department of Defense, one of the largest computer contracts in government history at the time. In 1986, Zenith Data Systems beat out IBM for a contract with the IRS, and by 1988, its SuperSport laptop had captured roughly a quarter of the entire American laptop market. For a few critical years in the late 1980s, the computer division's profits were the only thing keeping the parent company alive, while the television business bled cash. But Zenith was desperate for money, and in late 1989, the company sold Zenith Data Systems to France's Group Bull for approximately $511 million. The sale brought in critical short-term cash, but it stripped Zenith of its only profitable and growing business line. If the company had held on to that division and rebuilt around computing, this would be a very different story. But instead, Zenith was left dependent on the consumer electronics market it was already losing. And in one of the cruelest ironies in American industrial history, Zenith achieved what may have been its greatest technological triumph during the very years the company was dying. Zenith developed the VSB digital transmission system, which was selected by the FCC in 1996 as the core of the ATSC digital television standard, the technical foundation for all digital TV broadcasting in the United States. The company also played a central role in the Grand Alliance, the consortium that developed the American HDTV specification. And in 1997, Zenith received Emmy Awards for both its high-definition television work and its pioneering remote control technology. But none of that mattered at that point, because Zenith had been posting losses on its consumer electronics business almost every year since 1987, and the company no longer had the manufacturing scale, the distribution network, or the financial reserves to turn any of that innovation into profit. In 1991, South Korea's Lucky Gold Star, later renamed LG Electronics, purchased a 5% stake in Zenith. By 1995, LG had increased its ownership to 55%, which gave it a controlling share of the company. And in 1999, Zenith filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. LG converted roughly $200 million of Zenith's debt into equity and bought out the remaining shareholders, whose stock was rendered completely worthless. Zenith officially became a wholly owned subsidiary of LG Electronics in November of that year, and the profitable Network Systems division was sold off to Motorola in 2000, meaning the last remaining pieces of America's most trusted electronics brand were quietly parceled out. So what forces actually combined to destroy Zenith Electronics over those 4 decades? You could point to 5 of them working together. The death of Eugene McDonald in 1958 removed the visionary leadership that had driven Zenith for 37 years, and the vacuum at the top was never filled. The 16-year legal battle against Japanese television dumping consumed millions of dollars and ended in total defeat at the Supreme Court. Zenith's premium identity as the highest quality American brand became a fatal liability when consumers increasingly chose lower prices over brand loyalty through the 1970s and the 1980s. The 1989 sale of Zenith Data Systems removed the company's only profitable division at the worst possible moment. And by the 1990s, consumer electronics had become a fully global industry that demanded massive manufacturing scale and deep capital reserves that a mid-size American manufacturer simply could not provide. The Zenith Research Lab still operates today in Lincolnshire, Illinois, as part of LG Electronics' American subsidiary, and the lightning bolt logo still appears on select LG products sold in the United States. More than 5 million Zenith-branded digital converter boxes helped American households make the transition from analog to digital broadcasting in 2008 and 2009, and the VSB transmission technology that Zenith developed remains a foundational part of the broadcast standard used across North America. The company that started on a kitchen table in Chicago in 1918 invented the television remote control, set the FM stereo standard the entire world still uses, and built the transmission system behind American high-definition television never fully vanished from the landscape. But the factories are long gone, the name belongs to someone else, and the era of American electronics manufacturing that built Zenith is not coming back.